Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and today is incredibly special. We just passed our 100,000 subscriber mark. I'm incredibly proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish here on the channel over the last several years, and I have just a plethora of people to thank for helping us get here, supporting us, people in our personal lives, you that show up in the comments, you that watch the videos. You're the only reason that I get to be standing here doing this today. So a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you that have supported us thus far. Now today is also very special because I'm unveiling to you my treat. I've gotten this Hyundai IONIQ 5N as a treat to myself for passing that 100,000 subscriber mark. You guys who are familiar with the channel will also be familiar with this car because we drove it last year when it came out. We had a press car and spent a week with it, and I gushed over this thing for like the entire 22 minutes or whatever it was of that video. This was also the only electric car that I considered at the time that I had purchased my BMW M340, and today I'm going to walk you around all the reasons that I have ended up with this Hyundai IONIQ 5N. So let's get into it. Now, I remember when this car was coming out around last year, and even the months leading up to it, I was tracking it furiously. I was watching price estimations and, kind of speculative, leak videos and those sort of things. And as it finally came out, everyone lost their mind. Every review of this car was like, this is the best car of the year. I've absolutely loved this thing. It's super fast. The shifting thing is really cool. The sound works really well. And everyone loved the car. And then as far as I could tell, no one bought it. I don't know, maybe it is in like a Motor Trend or an Edmunds like long-term fleet, but I couldn't tell that anyone had bought it. And here we are a year later, and I kind of guess that I'm going to be the one. I'm going to be the one to test the ownership experience of the IONIQ 5N for you guys. So I hope you enjoy the series as we go along. But these are the 9 reasons that I ended up buying this car. The first reason is I kind of just wanted something more fun again. I do this on a personal level. I kind of fluctuate between like super practical and pragmatic and then being a little bit frivolous and wanting to have a good time. When I turned 30, I bought the BMW M340i, and it was great. I had the car for only about a year though, because I'd kind of done all that I was going to do to it. I had made all the content I was going to make with it, but at that time, that's when I was tracking this. And then I kind of decided, I'll go the more practical and pragmatic route after the BMW. There's going to be a new generation RAV4 coming out, and I'd like to document an ownership of the previous generation, make a comparison to the new generation. It'd be great for the channel, business reasons, blah, 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 blah. And I had the RAV4 then since, I'm shooting this the last day of September 2025. I bought the RAV4 in January of this year, so I only had the RAV4 for about 8 months because I started to get that itch. As an enthusiast, as someone that likes to drive fast cars, like the RAV4 is great. There is almost nothing wrong with that car, but it just doesn't really give me any sort of fizz. And I wanted something that gave me a little bit of fizz. So 600 horsepower, 640 and NGB, in something that looks like this, that goes like this, that turns like this, that brakes like this. We took this thing around Road America's Motorplex. You guys have seen it on the channel, and it posted an identical lap time to a BMW M3 competition. Not an F80, but a G80. Like, this is a fast car. And if we're gonna really split hairs, it's technically 400ths faster than a BMW M3 competition. And it's just fun. It's really fast, it looks cool. I get a little bit of fizz driving it. And I just kind of wanted that back in my life. I wanted something that I could be excited about, that maybe I could take to Cars and Coffee and have a conversation with somebody. No one wants to talk about my RAV4 if I go to Cars and Coffee. We're not talking about me, but this starts conversations for sure. I should also mention this car comes on P0, so like really high performance. They're actually like specifically designed, I think, for this car. So I actually have a stud in the back right tire right now. And it's like 550 bucks to replace that one tire. Now these are Pirelli P0s, like really high performance summer tires. They come with the car, they're 275 all the way around. Obviously that's why it was able to get that lap time to match basically an M3 competition. But it is a high-performance summer tire, and this is Wisconsin, and I think what I really need to do is put like an all-season tire on it. Like a performance all-season, working with my friends Kumo, they've supplied the last couple cars that I've had with tires, and they've been fantastic ever since. I put performance tires, some Extas on my BMW M340i. My wife has some Kumo Solus all-weather tires on her CRV that she loves, so I'm talking to Kumo about getting some all-season tires here for the IONIQ 5N. So more to come on that, but just give a little shout out to them because they've been fantastic partners to work with thus far. And the second reason, and these are in no particular order, but I wanted to try out the EV experience. Every year on the channel here, we drive at least 100 cars and do reviews and give impressions, and an increasing percentage of those cars that we test every year are electric. And I know electric, through our testing, is fairly finicky. And what's the public charging infrastructure look like day to day, month to month, year to year? What does the battery degradation look like over time? How susceptible is it to cold weather? That's not a problem here today, but it is Wisconsin and we are approaching winter. So being able to test that sort of stuff and being able to speak on EVs from a more authoritative and credible position, having owned something like this, it just makes me feel a little bit better about giving you guys the right information here on the channel. I want to give you guys accurate and professional information, and I think this is going to help me do that. But there's also a couple like funky EV features that I've been really excited about in test cars that I maybe haven't been able to test that often or whatever it may be, and I want to test them here. Specifically in the IONIQ 5, there's two that come to mind. One is the V2L function, being able to use the car as a quote generator. We had the not N, but the normal IONIQ 5 in August when, I don't know if you guys remember seeing in the news, but Milwaukee had torrential flooding, and that IONIQ 5, we used the V2L function to run my sump pump for 9 hours and my fridge, and that was fantastic. Not having to like crank up a generator, not having to deal with the sound, the fumes, anything like that. It just silently powered my sump pump and my fridge all day long, and it took like maybe 2% out of the battery in 9 hours. So that is just a super cool function. I think that was one of the big selling features as I went to go and get this car. The second thing is kind of the utility mode, and that kind of goes in tandem with the V2L function. You can kind of use the car as like a home base or like a big power brick for your campsite or whatever, but also in utility mode, you can run the HVAC and the air conditioning and stuff in the car if you want to go camping in the car. Now, I don't know who's probably going to do a lot of like off-roading or remote camping and those sort of things in an IONIQ 5N, but you could do it, and I kind of want to test it out. We did that in my 4Runner a few years ago, and it was incredibly hot, even with the windows down and some netting over the rear windows and the tailgate window. It was still incredibly hot. It got really stuffy in there. So to be able to run the air conditioning or the heat in whatever the ambient temperature is outside, that's fantastic if you want to camp in something like this. Before we move on, I should also shout out LECTRON. They've actually supplied me with a number of adapters as we continue to test EVs on my home outlet, going from a J1772 to a NAX adapter or reverse, or even having like a CCS combo to Tesla NAX adapter. They've provided me with a lot of stuff. It's all been super reliable. It's all certified. And that V2L function that I talked about with the normal IONIQ 5 that saved my sump pump, we don't have an outlet in the N under the rear seats, so it has to come out the charge port. So they actually sent me one of those, and I can't wait to use it. I've tested it, of course, to charge my phone, but it sounds like a weird thing to say, but I kind of can't wait to lose power in my house again so I can test it out on a more heavy duty cycle. But thank you again to LECTRON for hooking up that accessory and all of my charging accessories. They've been fantastic and I've got no problem with any of them. And then the third reason I want to talk about isn't so much like factual or journalistic, but I just think it looks cool. I think it looks super, super cool. I've always loved the way that the IONIQ 5's looked ever since it came out. It's got that like Lancia Delta Integrale look. I know that's kind of cliche to say, but it's true. And it's just kind of very like futuristic, Blade Runner, cyberpunk kind of attitude to it. And I just think it looks cool. And especially in this performance blue. This performance blue is actually the second color that I was thinking about. And it has to do with the way that they've chosen to paint or not paint the car. The color that I originally wanted to get was like the Ecotronic matte gray. I would have preferred a pearl or like a clear coat on top. I'm not necessarily like super pro or against matte finishes, but I wanted the gray because it hides some of the areas like that front bumper or the side skirt or the rear bumper that they've just left black. Now you can get a black one, but I don't know, it just doesn't look that cool. At least in my eye, but the performance blue was the second option, and just based on availability and where things were in the country and what was left on the lots, this was the one that was there. And to be honest, like I said, I was on the fence about the blue, but the more I've had the car for about a month now, and the longer I've had it, the more I'm like, I'm so glad I went with the blue. I like having a little bit of personality. Everyone that I talk to about this car is like, I love that paint, I love that color, and I really do. Now, I will say, like I mentioned before, if it were up to me, And if, you know, 3M or XPEL, or if any wrap companies want to reach out, please feel free to do so. There'll be a link in the description, or there'll be an email address in the description or on the About tab of the channel. But what I would do is take that front bumper right under those headlights in the front grille area, and I would wrap that body color. And I would wrap the side skirt that's black. I would wrap that body color, and the rear bumper, that would be body color. And if I had it entirely my way, I would take some of these orange accents across the front bumper. It reads red in the videos, but it is more orange than anything. I would take that front little kind of like noon marker on the grille, and then the front splitter, and then the side skirt, and then around back, I would make some of those accents white, I think. I think like a matte or maybe even a gloss white would look super cool with this performance blue. If you're not tracking what I'm saying, here's a look at the rendering of what I think it would look like. It's incredibly crude, but this is what I think it should look like. And then reason 4 is something a little bit less subjective and a little bit more objective. Obviously having this is going to be my main car. This is going to be my daily driving car. So being able to have something that's practical is important. And the trunk on this, when we talk about cargo area, there is no frunk. You can get a tiny little frunk in the normal IONIQ 5. It'll hold like a laptop and maybe like a charging cable or something like that. But there's no frunk in the IONIQ 5N. There's obviously like more motors and things going on up there, performance-oriented type things that take up more space. So there's no frunk in the N, but the trunk itself is still enormous. Now, due to the more slopified EV roofline, it's not on paper nearly as big as what was in my RAV4, but the actual footprint, the space that is occupying the floor, is just as big, if not maybe a tiny bit bigger, especially when you fold the rear seats down. The kind of torture test that I would do is this summer, Paulo and I did a triathlon in June, and then I did another triathlon in August with my dad. And being able to put my racing bike in the trunk of the car was like the big torture test. It fit in the RAV4. It was tight, but it did fit in the RAV4, and it fits here in the IONIQ 5N as well. It feels like it's maybe a little bit bigger, the space in the IONIQ 5N, but either way, it fits my bike, and that's all I really needed to do. So I'm happy with the practicality here. And we'll do other tests with the trunk, like can I sleep or live back there for 24 hours? We'll do that in a separate video on the channel as time goes on. And then reason number 5 is kind of in the same vein. It has to do with practicality, daily usability, utility, and that sort of thing. And it's just the rear seats. And they're huge. I love the rear seats. And not only can I sit back there at 6'1", but I put my huge Irish 6'5" friend back there, and he even had a couple inches of knee room, and he had some headroom. So that's an enormous dude, and he fits in the back of this car here. And the seats themselves, they're pretty comfortable. I like the fact that we've got vents on the B pillars rather than in that center console, because obviously in the normal IONIQ 5, that center console moves, so you can't plumb HVAC and venting and things through that. So they've got it on the B pillars on the sides, and that actually is really nice for my dogs. We do a lot of, you know, road trips up to our lake cabin in the weekends of like the summer months, and the dogs like to obviously watch out the windows, but I don't like to have the windows down on the highway because that's obnoxious. So for them to be able to look out the windows and still have some air on their faces is really nice. And reason number 6 goes back to something that we actually talked about already, but this car did save my, I mean, not this specific car, but the IONIQ 5 that we had on test that week was just perfect timing because it did save my basement from flooding for the most part. I mean, there's a reel that we put up on YouTube kind of showing the process, but it did save my house. A lot of my friends in the Milwaukee area, when those storms came, when those floods came, they've got incredible damage in their basements, to their roofs and things like that. Like, to be able to run power for that long from this car is a huge deal. So again, shout out to LECTRON for hooking us up with that adapter, and shout out to Hyundai for making like a really good system. I should also mention the Hyundai IONIQ 5 is not the only vehicle that has this sort of feature. I believe in the Limited, since we had an outlet under the seat and one from the charge port adapter, it was a combined like 3.6 kilowatts of that it could off-put, or that it could output and charge. Something like a Ford F-150 Lightning will do like 9.2 kilowatts of power, so like huge power coming out of these things. You could certainly power your whole house, and a lot of people were doing that. You can get this sort of feature in like an F-150 hybrid, and you know, a lot of other EVs that will do like 1.5 kilowatts of output. Even hybrids are, you know, some of them, depending on what you get, is like a 1.2, 1.5 kilowatts of output, that sort of thing. But to have something that's this quiet, that's this seamless, that's this easy, absolutely love that. So again, shout out to LECTRON for that adapter. And reason number 7 is going to go back to driving, and a huge reason that this was really kind of the only EV that I ever really entertained owning. And it's the fact that you do have the sound and you do have the shifting with the paddles. Now, other EVs have made sound. We were in a Mustang Mach-E Rally. We'll have a comparison between this and that on the channel in a little bit, but that Mach-E Rally has a propulsion sound, but it's just kind of on and it's just tied to your throttle position. It doesn't really, it's very one-dimensional. Even the new Dodge Charger EV has its, famous fratsonic chamber, and it makes 126 decibels of sound of the speaker or whatever. It matches the Hellcat or whatever. Like, it is also still pretty one-dimensional because it's not tied to any sort of shifting or engine braking or, rev limiter or anything like that. It's just kind of like proportionate to where your throttle and where your speed is. The experience here goes so much further on the IONIQ 5N because not only do you have multiple sounds, not only can you turn it off, not only can you turn off the pop-pops and you make it louder and softer, whatever, but it's tied into actual shifting. Now, I will say the sound itself, the actual audio, the track, the waveform is like 80% there. It still sounds pretty cartoonish. I think in the future they'll improve that, but honestly, like Borla or whoever's working on like synthesized EV sounds, if I can get a DLC pack with like Ferrari 458 sound, Audi or Lambo V10 sound, Lexus LC500, like 5-liter V8 sound in here, if I could map that into here, I'll give you whatever money you want. Honestly, I will. But more than the actual sound, more than the tone, more than the quality, the actual integration and the engineering of how, like the sensation of how it drives is so well done. If you are in the wrong gear, if you're in too high of a gear, it'll kind of bog down and chug. If you bang rev limiter, it's gonna cut power immediately. You do get a little bit of engine braking when you go into downshift, and it does synthesize a DCT really well. I took my dad for a ride in it when I took it up to the cottage this year, and he was like shocked by how well, and he's not the only one. Everyone that I've taken in this car is like, is this cat? No, it's EV, but it's like, it's that good. It's programmed that well. The sound could use a little bit of work, but as that continues to develop, I think it'll be pretty perfect. So that's really the reason that I was pushing for this car, because it does bring some of that internal combustion experience to this experience, and it's done phenomenally well. And reason 8 kind of piggybacks on it. It can be that loud and fast and crazy and harsh, kind of like race car experience at times, and then I can flick a button. I can flick drive mode. It puts me right back into normal mode or eco mode, and then the car is like kind of slow. It's really gradual. The ride is a lot better. Obviously we have adaptive suspension. We've got a crazy amount of like adaptive suspension and diff control and all that sort of stuff, torque vectoring. But you can flick a button and then it's just quiet. And then it's just an IONIQ 5. Now it still rides a little bit stiffer than an IONIQ 5, but it is genuinely comfortable. In an eco mode, in a non-like hardcore mode, this certainly rides a lot nicer and easier than even my M340 from BMW. So I love the fact that I do have a split personality here. If I've had a headache, or if I've just had like a long day, or if my wife's not feeling well and she's in the car, I don't have to have it be loud or crazy. If I need to get to the airport at 4 or 3 in the morning, it doesn't have to like wake up and go brah, brah, brah. You can just be an EV. You can just be an IONIQ 5, one of the best EVs on the market. And number 9, the last thing that I'll talk about with you guys is money. Because when this car first came out, and you'll remember from the video that we shot comparing it to my M340 and even our standalone review last year with the Pumpkin, and I was like twisting myself in circles and doing backflips trying to justify the like $1,100 a month lease payment that I would have on something like this. And like at the end of the day, it's $1,100 a month for a Hyundai, and I just didn't sit quite well. It just wasn't, there was no need for it. So I kind of just stopped thinking about it. But I bought this car, or I should say I leased this car in August, and somewhere between mid-August and the end of September, before the lease credits run out, the lease for this was 36 months, 10,000 miles a year for $550 a month. So half of what it originally was. It's like $16,500 of like markdown or whatever. But I mean, this is a lot. This is 640 horsepower. This is a generator that's as fast as an M3 competition around a racetrack for $550 a month. I mean, that's fantastic. But those are the main reasons that I ended up buying the car. And there's a couple other things that I wanted to make sure I covered. We talked about some of these modifications that I want to make as we went through the video. The first one is tires. And again, thank you to Kumo for working with me again to find some rubber for this thing, especially as we approach some colder months. So more to come on that. I'm also interested to see how tires, even at the same size, affect range, how the weather is going to affect the range, and maybe, you know, if we get further, I'm going to have this car for 3 years, so maybe further down the road, maybe we try some like 20-inch wheels. I think like like some white 20-inch like turbofan wheels would look sick on this thing. So we'll see down the road. The other thing, I talked about it, why didn't they finish painting the front bumper, side skirt, rear bumper? 3M, XPEL, my number will be somewhere on the channel, because I would love to kind of body color match those panels right there. And the last thing I need is floor mats, which I'll probably just end up getting whatever I can find, because this is a pretty niche vehicle and it's got a unique center console to this car. So I guess finding floor mats is just going to be whatever I can find. But wanted to share this new and exciting experience with you. I'm super excited. I've had the car for a month already. I've already kind of started taking notes on my experiences so far, and I can't wait to share all that stuff with you guys as we go along. So thank you again to everyone that's helped us get to 100,000 subscribers here on YouTube. I really can't thank you guys enough, and we'll see you in the next video.